TCU needs some help on special teams. Add a kicker in the transfer portal to bring some competition to that unit.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. Thanks for making Locked On Horned Frogs your first listen. I've been covering the Frogs for the past 12 years. We're brought to you today by Gametime. If you need tickets, last-minute tickets, especially to that sporting event, comedy show, whatever it is, check out the Gametime app, especially if you're using them for the NBA playoffs. Jamie Dixon added another piece to his roster yesterday by getting Tanner Toolson in the fold, the Utah Valley guard. We'll talk about him in segment 2. But we start today with some special teams talk. I want to talk about the TCU kicker situation right now as we've ended spring camp and we head towards the fall. Kyle Lemmermann is the Frogs kicker at the moment. And right now that's pretty unquestioned. He's the guy that's there. He was recruited. He's on scholarship. He's ready to go. He's coming into his second season. Last year he was 15 of 22 kicking the ball, which comes out to 68% as a field goal kicker. He was 98% on extra points, so did a pretty good job there. Between 20 and 29 yards, he was 7 of 8. 30 and 39, he was 3 of 5. 40 and 49, he was 5 of 8. He was 0 of 1 from 50 plus, and that was that potential game winner against UCF, which I believe was a 58-yarder. So it was a tough situation. Walks in, has a chance to win the ball game, but it's from 58 yards out. On the surface, those numbers look pretty good. He was a true freshman kicker last year. I would say, however, though, that last season TCU's place kicking situation was unreliable. He didn't feel great when they had to line up and kick a field goal. And in Sonny Dykes' first season, Griffin Kell was really good kicking the ball. Of course, had the famous walk-off bazooka game winner against Baylor, but was a steady presence really all year long. In year 2, he struggled. Now, if you've listened to the show for a while, you've heard me say that I think part of the reason he struggled in his last season on campus was because the offense put him in tough situations. There were a lot of drives that stalled out and negative plays on third down that created 4th and longs where they had to kick from 40 plus or 50 plus. And Griffin showed through his career that he was at his best between 20 and 40 yards, as most kickers are. But I was really excited when TCU signed Kyle Lemmermann because rankings when it comes to kicker recruiting is very subjective. All rankings are that way, but there's really not. 247 and Rivals, they don't get in the weeds with that. So there's not multiple entities that are evaluating these kickers. But at least from one trusted rating system, Kyle was the number 1 kicker in the country. And I felt like if there's any position where you should transition quickly and be the dude when you're a freshman, it's at kicker. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, but it's kicking the football. It's the same mechanics that you had in high school. And honestly, the 7 misses, really the UCF one was the only high pressure game-winning type of situation. All the others were middle of the game, just need 3 points here, let's kick the football. And I think over the last few years, TCU has left a lot of points on the board. Part of it is because this coaching staff believes in going for it on 4th down, which is fine. I like my coaching staff to be aggressive. But another part of it is they just haven't had a reliable kicking situation. So I think TCU needs to dip into the portal and at least bring somebody in to compete. And some of you might roll your eyes at this for a couple of reasons. First off, we're going to a world where you can only have 105 people on your roster. Okay? Right now, TCU has close to 130. Now, the House settlement that is going to be ruled on in the near future, one of the things that the judge brought up in recent deliberations was, hey, one thing I'd like to see changed here is let's have a gradual buildup to this 105 roster limit rule so that we don't this summer have thousands of kids cut off their college football teams because people are trying to get to 105. But whatever that number ends up being, most likely TCU is going to have to make some moves, and there's going to be some attrition. Even with that said, I think this is important enough that you need somebody in there who can at least push Kyle Lemmermann to the point where he can clearly win the job. Because even though the staff wants to be aggressive, and I understand, especially on 4th and short near the red zone, you want to keep drives alive, get 7 points, get touchdowns. It's a huge luxury to have someone on your roster who, when you cross, the opponent's 35-yard line, you feel pretty good about getting points. And I know that's a high bar, but since Kyle was a 5-star kind of can't miss kicking prospect out of high school, I think that was what I was expecting personally. Now, are those unfair expectations? Maybe. Are you going to be able to go get a guy that's like that in the portal? I'm not sure, but I think you at least need to have someone in there that can give you a look at something different, and you have some competition within that special teams room. When we talk about the air raid and that tree, it's almost silly to talk about it as one entity because there's so many variations now of the air raid family. The godfather of it, the late great Mike Leach, but Lincoln Riley is technically from that air raid tree. What he's doing on offense is vastly different than what Mike Leach did. There's been more of an effort with a lot of these coaches, including Sonny Dykes, to be more physical, to run the ball more, to have more of a balanced offense, while still incorporating a lot of the simple passing concepts that allow your quarterbacks to make quick decisions, get one-on-one matchups for your wide receivers, and get those short yardage, like quick plays, and also those shots down the field. But one gripe I would have, okay, so for years, like in the Big 12, teams ran up-tempo offenses. They were throwing the ball all over the place, and there was this great criticism about the Big 12 in general. Well, they'll never win big because they just score points, and that's all they care about. They don't have solid defenses. They don't have, great trench play, and they just don't care about defense. So they're not going to win because defense wins championships. But then the SEC started running a lot of those concepts and running a lot of those types of offenses, and suddenly it was okay. Suddenly it was like, wow, look at the SEC. They have great physical defenses, and now they have these amazing offenses. In my mind, it's not so much the offensive philosophy. The thing that's been holding the Big 12 back has been depth, especially on the offense and defensive lines. You just don't have 1 through 5 great line play, and then beyond that, you don't have the endless supply of really good pass rushers who can get after the quarterback. The other thing is just a lack of attention to detail. And I believe a lot of it comes from having so much confidence in your offense to score points, making that your main priority, that there are other factors on the team, especially when it comes to special teams, that don't get the attention that they deserve. Because the thought is, well, if we can score touchdowns, why do we need somebody who's got a big leg? If we think we can create the matchups to get in the end zone, we don't need to worry about stalling drives out and having someone to kick field goals on a consistent basis. In fairness to TCU, they have multiple members on staff that work with special teams. So Casey Petrie is an off-the-field type of analyst, but his job title is assistant coach for special teams unit. And then Mark Tramadol has been in some different roles, but when he was primarily on the field, he was a special teams coordinator. So they've paid some attention to it. And I think in Kyle's case, they identified a high school kicker that they really liked and was rated highly, had good, resume, and said, hey, let's go after this kid. I think the freshman year results were a mixed bag. And I worry about, there's a mental adjustment, I'm sure. I'm sure there's some things about kicking in big cavernous stadiums that is a little different. But I mean, he went to South Lake Carroll, like he's been in big time environments. We all know what Texas high school football facilities are like. He's been in places where the stands are packed. And again, as I said earlier, that UCF kick was really the only one that was a game-winning type of scenario. The others were mostly early in games. And he had some good games this year. I mean, he went 2 of 2 against Baylor. 2 of 3 against Utah, missed 1. But that 20 to 40 yard range needs to be more automatic. I think that's the first step. If you can just get there, that would be a huge benefit to this offense and this team. If you can find somebody, whether it's Kyle or someone else, that has that leg strength and that ability to consistently hit from 40 plus 50 yards out, then that's a whole new dimension to this team. And you can still be aggressive. I mean, you can still have this philosophy of, 4th and short and plus territory. We want to be a team that goes for it and that pushes the envelope and that keeps drives alive and pushes for touchdowns. But you have that card in your back pocket that, hey, if we need to kick, especially in the fourth quarter, late in games when points are tougher to come by, if that's a way to seal a game or to win a game, or even that UCF situation. I mean, TCU got down to the 38, 39-yard line. And I remember that last play, I felt like if Josh would have just kind of taken off on a scramble, maybe gets a few more yards and makes that a more manageable kick. But if you have a kicker that can hit from 50 plus, then you don't have to, get down to the 20-yard line. Suddenly you get to the 32, 33, then you can send him out there to go win the ball game. So I just believe there has to be more of an investment there, and it could start by adding a player who can at least get some more competition in that room. When we come back, TCU basketball adds another player to the fold. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I told you about him at the beginning of the show. One of our great and loyal sponsors, Gametime. It's where the game starts. If you need tickets on the secondary market, you should give Gametime a chance today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app. Please do it today. If you need tickets to the NBA playoffs, what's better than an NBA playoff game? As a Mavericks fan, I've experienced it in the past. I would love to experience it right now. It's not going to happen, but they have last-minute deals. Actually, as tip-off gets closer, prices on the app go down. They can save you up to 60%. All-in pricing means there's no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. So TCU men's basketball, it is, for all intents and purposes, a big-time rebuild. Ernest Uday. Now, you have some young pieces that you like. David Punch coming back, Jace Posey coming back, Micah Robinson. But a lot of your production, Ernest Uday in the portal, gone to Miami. Vashawn Allett, I have not seen a destination for him yet, but he's in the transfer portal. Noah Reynolds, graduating, moving on. Frankie Collins in the portal. That's a pretty big overhaul. So you're trying to build around this young core. They went and got Brock Harding from Iowa. He's going to be your steady veteran point guard presence. That's his job. Along with him, Jaden Pierre from Providence, who is a combo guard who can score. Now, he is a volume scorer, which means he's going to take a lot of shots. But he does have the ability to get to the bucket, to shoot a little bit. Two additions that I like particularly recently. Tanner Toolson, a guy they've been chasing after really for about the past month. He committed yesterday and signed yesterday, 13 points a game last year at Utah Valley. He can shoot the rock 34% from three in 2024, 45% from the field, averaged 4 rebounds a game as well. And he's not just a shooter. I mean, watching some tape of him, like he also shows a little bounce and some athleticism, an ability to put the ball on the deck and get to the rim, an ability to finish strong. He's 6'5", so good size there. And then Latarius, LT, as I have grown to call him because I heard them mention it in the broadcast, and I think it's a great fitting name since he's coming to TCU. From Oregon State and originally from Slovenia, at 6'7", 37% three-point shooter, active on the glass. Two guys who can space the floor a little bit, which is what you need. So I like the individual pieces that they've added here. You still need a big man. You need somebody to help replace what you have leaving with Ernest Uday. Malik Diallo is a good player, but I think he needs help, and you need more depth there. You've got some young guys that will sort of see what it looks like when the season starts. Ashton Simmons, Bug Edwards coming in as a true freshman from Duncanville. I like the individual pieces. I like the shooting prowess. I still wonder, and really it might just be something that we figure out as the season goes on and non-conference play starts. Who's your main scorer? Who's the player that you can dump it off to late in the shot clock and say, hey, we need a bucket, go get it? Is it Jaden Pierre? Is it David Punch in sort of the high post, kind of mid-range area like Emmanuel Miller was for a while? Punch didn't show that consistently last year, but is that something he can develop this season and be more comfortable with? Micah Robinson, I think there'll be open auditions of sorts. But getting shooters is one piece of the puzzle. You also have to have somebody who can get in the lane, kick it out to those players, and create good shots. Brock Harding's going to do part of that as your point guard. When he was at Iowa, however, though, he was truly a point guard. Averaged 8 points a game. He was mainly asked to distribute, though, and to create opportunities for his teammates. So with him taking on that role, and you got some shooters to space the floor now, who are those guards that can really go get points for you? But overall, I mean, it's tough in the Big 12 because everybody's so good and it's so deep. I like the pieces that they're adding, and I like the aggressiveness and the shooting that they've landed so far. TCU women's basketball, also on Monday, added another face. Veronica Sheffy, guard from San Diego State, who averaged 11 points a game and 3 rebounds last year, shot 42% from the field and 36% from three, which was a big jump. Her career, she started at San Diego, spent 2 years there, spent 1 season at San Diego State, and now is coming to TCU. Shot 30% from three at San Diego 2 years ago, shot 36% at San Diego State last year from beyond the arc. That's a significant jump. Mark Campbell, spread pick and roll. This is going to be the Olivia Miles show. She is there to lead this offense. She is going to do what Haley Van Lith did last year, which means the ball is going to be in her hands a lot, and they're giving her opportunities to go get her own bucket or get in the lane and create opportunities for other players. They will miss Van Lith a lot. Not only, I mean, she had nights where she was just a scoring presence and she took over, like that Notre Dame game in the Sweet 16. But she also had a lot of nights where teams were keying in on her, and her job was mainly like, okay, I'm going to create other opportunities for my teammates. And she did that really well. That's now up to Olivia Miles to get that done. But Sheffy is a big-time shooter. And they need those players on this roster. Marta Suarez has that ability too, as kind of a 3, maybe a 4, power forward, small forward role. She can shoot the 3 coming over from Cal. I'm hopeful that Taylor Bigby takes on a bigger role next season. I liked what I saw from her, especially kind of midway through the season. And then things sort of tailed off with her shooting late in the year, and she fell out of the rotation. But she's got a really smooth shot, and it looks pretty effortless. And she showed an ability to relocate and get her feet set and find open looks and knock them down. That's going to be the big key for the rest of these players. And losing Sedona Prince is a big hit on offense. But to me, the bigger question is, how do they recover defensively? Are Clara Silva and Kendi Basham going to be able, in the middle of that defense, to be the rim protectors that she was and to force teams into jump shots? And we saw, there were games this year where teams lived in the mid-range against TCU and had some success for a quarter or a half, but eventually those shots started to miss. The ball games where they were in trouble this season, South Carolina, Texas, it was against teams that could play big lineups. And TCU's size didn't affect them. And so Campbell has made a commitment to reload again in that area. He's got multiple players that are 6'7". Got a 6'3", 6'4", small forward, power forward. They have a lot of those pieces on the roster. It's just about everything coming together for the season to start. When we come back, some of your thoughts. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Before we do that, though, I do want to talk about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is back. It's daily fantasy, and it's very simple. If you're like, I don't understand this world, I don't know if I can get into it, don't worry. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. So if you think Aaron Judge is going to go for more than 1 home run on a given night, take that pick. Or Shohei Ohtani can go for more than 1 stolen base. It's fast and simple. Setting up a lineup takes 60 seconds. When you win, the payout is quick, safe, and secure. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that code LOCKEDONCollege, one $5 lineup, you play that, you get $50 instantly. Download the app today. PrizePicks. Give it a try. So I got an email today from TCU PR, the media athletic department relations. Big announcement, supposedly today for TCU football at 10 a.m. Not many details. I don't think it's going to be any personnel announcement. So I feel like maybe a scheduling situation. I don't know what else, or a fundraising idea. I'm not sure what else they'd be announcing and use that specific wording, but just be on the lookout. And if you're watching this, most likely, unless you woke up early, and depending on what time I posted, I guess this has already happened, but some big time announcement happening today. We'll make sure and talk about that on Wednesday's show, no matter what it is. Yesterday, I talked about Dylan Kinney being added as an offensive lineman from Abilene Christian, and Frog Fan jumped on YouTube and said, all in, your 2025 Big 12 champions, the Horned Frogs of Fort Worth. I love it. I have high expectations for this team too, and I think it's warranted. I don't feel like they'll be super high up in the preseason media rankings because I'm not sure people really understand what they did in the back half of the season. And so much of that is just about your returning players and what your season looked like at the end of the year. So even though they finished strong, they won the New Mexico Bowl, I imagine the national and regional reaction will be pretty muted. But as far as internally and here as people that live and breathe this all the time, your coaching staff has a lot of continuity. Your players have a ton of continuity. Defense in year 2, a returning quarterback who's basically in year 3 of his career at TCU. This is a high expectation season. And yeah, I know the schedule's tough. It starts with a tough game against a North Carolina team that might not be extremely talented yet, but they have an amazing head coach who I feel like is going to do a great job of trying to exploit what TCU doesn't do well. So if you don't have much of a run game in that ball game, it's going to be tough sledding. But beyond that, SMU later on in the schedule, you get Iowa State, Kansas State, Colorado, Arizona State, all the heavy hitters, BYU. So it's going to be difficult. But, that's where we're at, and that's where this team should be. And when you add players like Dylan Kinney, again, it's an acknowledgement that, yes, we need some more depth, we need some more pieces, but ultimately, as far as starters go and impact players go, we feel good about what we have on campus. And we're rolling with those guys, and we're banking on their talent and their experience being what wins out. So that's the big question that has to be answered for TCU. Is the continuity enough for this team to succeed this next season. And we'll keep an eye on it all year long, as well as football, baseball, and basketball. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Subscribe to the YouTube channel or find us wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available there.